in that communique. So it's actually how will these action items be delivered. So, for example, we need to have a presidential steering committee that will oversee everything. Then we also need to have technical subcommittees because, for example, when you talk about the issue of CNG, so the issue of CNG, you need experts. The issue of CNG, you need those people that are willing to invest in the issue of CNG. You need the National Oil Company, NNPC Limited, to come up with what they need to do and the time with which they are going to deliver. So all that, there are some technicalities that are required beyond this meeting. So those technicalities will now move into the technical committee. So those technical committee will subsume into the presidential committee. But all these, we must conclude everything maximum in 8 weeks. So those technical committee, some will submit their report in 1 week. Once they submit in 1 week, we implement. Some we submit in 2 weeks, we implement. But the last should not exceed 8 weks. Yeah.
So what we're looking at now is the rollout of CNG in full by 8 weeks and then a reduction. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I just use CNG as an example that if let's assume next week the technical committee on CNG comes together, then they submit a report. Let's say within 1 week, they should be able to turn in the report to the Presidential Steering Committee. So when they turn in that report, then they start rolling out immediately. So the same thing as well across the entire the list that we submitted. So all these actionable items, we will start working on them effective immediately.
Yeah. Minimum wage. How much? This framework and deliverables.
No. Once the terms of reference, the terms of reference of these committees are going to be agreed on between today and tomorrow, because there is a school of thought that is of the opinion that minimum wage, because it's a function of law, and in the law, the committees that will review minimum wage is already there. That committee will also start their functions. So for us, those terms of reference, we could not agree broadly, totally on the final terms of reference, but we will work on that between today, tomorrow, and have the full terms of reference across all boards, because we are looking at having a broad 5 technical committees that will subsume into the Presidential Steering Committee.
So what are the low-hanging fruits?
So it's part of what we have discussed. For us, from Labour, we see almost everything as low-hanging fruit, actually. We see the CNG as low-hanging fruit. We see the issue of palliatives that could get to the people. We see that as a low-hanging fruit. So for us, we see most of the things we have said as something that government can do almost easily. But let government now tell us. So when we are now agreeing on the terms of reference, I just want us to exercise patience a bit, because when you see the terms of reference in these committees and the areas they are looking at with timeline, so there must be timeline, 1 week, 2 weeks, but maximum should not exceed 8 weeks.
You said continue meeting.
Yes.
After now.
Yes.
Is it with the
steering
government?
committee is going to meet the steering committee. So to also on our path, we also pushed that we need to meet within the next 1 week. So these committees will start work. The terms of reference, they will start developing them. So by next week Monday, we will be here again. By next week Monday, same time.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Open your this thing, your tripod.
All right, sir. Can you please share with us some of the outcome of the discussions you had?
Well, it was a brief one. Like I said earlier, this meeting, is intentional to give life to those agreements we reached on. And as at the end of this meeting, we have set up committees in those key areas to commence work on them to make sure that we wrap up in the next 8 weeks. Simply, that's the whole essence of the meeting.
low-hanging fruit in the immediacy, then in the short run, the medium term, and the long term. So those list of demands in terms of implementation and execution fall into those three broad categories of short, medium, and long-term, categories. So that's what we decided today, and then other meetings will still be held in order to cross the T's and dot the I's, and we have adjourned again, and we are meeting. Now, work groups have been constituted at today's meeting. There's a steering committee that will be like a clearing house, and there are other work groups set up comprising both parties, government and labor members. And these work groups will work together very, very harmoniously and very efficiently to arrive at the final resolution of all those demands and what we call interventions.
Is the steering committee already in place?
I said it was constituted here.
What is about these 8 weeks we've been hearing from both the TUC and the NLC? They said the committees will have to report to, the subcommittees will have to report to the
steering committee. That's right.
8 weeks.
That's right.
So what and what would you expect them to bring to the table when they come back next year?
I'm not going to second guess them, and that's a hypothetical question, really, because these committees or subcommittees were just constituted today, and that's why we gave that length of time of 8 weeks for them to really solidify their acts and meet with the labor counterparts and then go over the viability of all of these things. Those demands that I said fall into three different categories. Don't forget that this is really a tedious job. You really need to identify those ones that both parties agree on that can be delivered immediately, and then those ones that will be in the medium term and those ones that will be in the longer term. And don't forget that even when you have agreed on some of the items, you still need to go through details or structural details of implementation of execution. And in any execution of any policy, there are contingencies and exigencies that you have to make allowances for. That's why we gave that 8-week allowance for all of those exigencies to be really sorted out, and then we can have something concrete and viable, implementable, that will be executed on behalf of Nigerians.
Sir, can you please avail us of these low-hanging fruits? If you can't tell us all.
No, I will not even be able to tell you any, because those are still subjects of discussion by those subcommittees. So in legal parlance, it will be sub judice.